If Derek can get in the picture and look like you've been here the whole time. Hurry up, sir. Okay, welcome to the August 13th, 2014 school board meeting. Let's start with Pledge Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Provision to the agenda, and that is the addition of 2 job descriptions that were finalized today as part of the stipend agreement that was required under the new contract, and it needs to go to the board and to the LEA before September 1st. So we'll add that agenda item. Well, I guess it has to be under new business.
Yep. Is that it?
That's it.
Excellent. All right. Summary of non-public actions from July 23rd, 2014. Mr. York made a motion to approve the non-public minutes on July 9th, 2014 as written. Mr. Lepore, second. Motion carried 2-0-1. Mr. Burke abstaining. Mr. York made a motion to accept the nomination of Catherine Seaver as a full-time LMS reading specialist at a salary of $51,985 for 2014-15 year. Mrs. Lepore, second. Motion carried 3-0-0. Mr. Burke made a motion to accept the nomination of Caitlin Chabet as a part-time CHS French teacher at a salary of $17,535 for the 2014-15 year. Mrs. Lepore, second. Motion carried 3-0-0. And Mr. Burke made a motion to accept the resignation of Sandra Johnstone, GMS teacher. Mr. York, second. Motion carried 3-0-0. And that was it for the minutes. And any correspondence?
I think Mr. Garrett sent us an email. Week or so.
Do you have that,
Same thing.
Michelle?
Same
do.
thing.
Can somebody send it to me?
Yeah.
No.
About Common Core.
Any others? And we have the draft minutes from 7/23/14.
Make a motion to approve them.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained.
Aye.
3-0-1. Community forum? Going in the community forum, so we'll move on to superintendent comments.
Just an update, we've gotten through our administrative strategic planning session a couple of weeks ago that went very well, moving forward with plans for revision to the teacher evaluation system, educator evaluation system, actually, since it includes some non-teaching positions. We've met once with the LEA president and vice president and address the situation with the administrative group. And this Monday past, the LEA executive met with the admin group, myself included, to go over the plans, the scope, give them the background information, the legislative background, the DOE waiver background, and our policy. And we're seeking, in both conversations with the LEA, feedback on the processes. They're very much a part of this process moving forward, and I'd like to thank them for their participation. Very good feedback from Nate Cooper and Stacy Leary on the first round of the PowerPoint information, and good information again on Monday from the executive. And the revisions that we make to the documents and the PowerPoint presentation have already been worked into the presentation that we're going to make to the entire teaching population on the first day of the teacher workshops on August 26th. So thank you very much for that work. We have a few positions that we're still cleaning up a little bit. But other than that, things are going through the normal summer quiet period with a little bit of hectic. Mr. Markowitz is, the auditors have been in. But generally, you know, we're about where we are at this time of year. There are always last minute things to be dealt with, and so far so good.
Excellent. All right. Any school board comments? Actually, I have two, and then I think they're both just questions. The first is, do we do any drug testing for our athletes? And if not, why? Whoa, silence.
I guess it would be.
Drug testing for athletes?
Yeah,
High school?
yeah.
Are we even allowed to, I guess? Is there a privacy concern?
I think that if there's something that occurs, there's actions that's taken, but not,
I don't know at what level they start, that's why I'm just curious.
I mean, I think they signed the agreement that covers everywhere, on school grounds and all school grounds.
Yeah.
If something were to occur, there's certain situations and processes that occur, I think is what our policy is.
Right. And the other is, I know there was conversation, and I don't know, this could just be a sidebar, but as far as the sophomore and senior projects,
Has not come to the board for more discussion.
okay. All right.
It's on the agenda. I think it's kept being pushed out.
Well, that's why that's why I'm just putting it out there. It's like, I know that some
Been on there
sophomores.
for about a year now.
Okay.
Year and a quarter.
Well, I know that some sophomores and probably some seniors have already started, if not completed.
Well,
their
there's,
projects.
well, it would probably, not to take a shot at the board, but they'll probably grandfather in for the new coming freshmen. Because, why not, we didn't want to make it more difficult for the freshmen becoming sophomores with math, so
Right.
I would imagine that sophomores and seniors should have to continue on the project, and incoming eighth graders would be the luxury ones of not having to continue with those tasks if we get that far in it.
So it sounds like it might be a conversation that will be coming up.
Well, the chair and the administration carries the agenda, so.
Given that budget season is going to be upon us before we think it is, second meeting in September might be a good time to put senior and senior projects on, to have high school folks come and present to the board. Does that sound like a reasonable timeline? People will be back, we'll have a chance. I know Principal Rothos has spoken to some of the folks about contributing to that when it happens. So let's tentatively book it. Michelle? Now, are there 2 meetings or 3?
There are three.
Three. Which is the last meeting before the first budget meeting?
The 17th.
17th of September? You're just trying to cheer me up.
No,
So tentatively, September 17th?
Access committee reports.
Well, the building committee was gonna meet, but we canceled that until our meeting until September due to a lack of information because of vacations and stuff, so stuff wasn't able to get back to us in a timely fashion, so we had no update on that, other than, I met with Frank Byron, and he had told me about some town property that was near to the school off of Town Road, and also property at Town Hall that could be used for any of these, storage facilities or buildings or things that the school may want to look at. So there may be an opportunity, if we don't have facilities at the school that work out well, then we may have some town property that we could always take a look at.
Any other committees?
Curriculum was supposed to meet today, actually, but they postponed it until next week. Just kind of go over strategy and plan for the rest of the year. But it was postponed to next week because of interest, vacations, and scheduling and stuff like that.
And the budget committee met, and there were a few things that came out of it. Of course, Bill was looking for year-end numbers on 2013-14, which,
You can tell him it's not alone.
Yeah.
So aren't we?
I
You can tell him he's not alone, so aren't we?
let him know that we had not received them yet as the
They're
board.
not even in the pipeline yet. The auditors are in today, tomorrow, and Friday.
Yep.
They're late this year.
I know that he also requested some special ed numbers that you sent off to him, and the other was that, I believe you corrected also, the cover letter from the bus contract showed the late bus as a different number that was within the contract was different. So it was just, it was incorrect on the cover letter, but inside.
It wasn't a cover, it was just a summary.
Right.
They picked up the wrong number when they did that.
But inside the
The
contract.
contract's
it's the
correct, and the budget numbers are correct.
Yep. That's really about it as far as the budget committee of the school. With that,
What was their comments about the new contract?
none, and just, that was the only question really that they had, was just the late bus was showing a different price or cost. And I think Bill also mentioned that he had been correct in what he said the amount was gonna be.
He was what?
He was correct in what he had projected the number would be. And I assured him that had we not gone, the type of contract we had, it would have been significantly higher, and had we not gone to the same company, it would have been significantly higher. So we lucked out.
We did.
All right, that takes us to LSP Planning and Building Advisory Committee.
Actually, he did that at the start of that. We didn't meet.
Yeah, that, we handled that. That was the building committee.
Okay. And we're on to Business Administrator's Report and proposed lunch prices increase.
In your packet was a quick summary, as you've heard before. The district participates in the National School Lunch Program, which one of the elements of our participation is that our school prices for meals be somewhat comparable to the reimbursement rate that we receive for free and reduced. So within that, each year, we look at the regulation and we make a determination just how far we are off, or if we are close to that recommended rate. In this handout that I've provided to you, again, as you recall, I was somewhat optimistic third quarter, I believe it was, when we made the proposal to purchase the new computer equipment and software out of need, that our old equipment was going down, and at that time I was somewhat optimistic, guardedly optimistic, that we were going to have a reasonable opportunity to break even in the food service program. And as you can see, couldn't have got it any much closer. These are preliminary numbers, again, unaudited, and there will be some adjustments from the auditors for our inventory, but we're darn close to breaking even for the school year. That's absorbing the cost of the new computer equipment, computer software. As you call LMS, we replaced the steamer at a substantial investment as well. Some of the concerns, obviously, that our recommendation of requesting the board approve a price increase. Obviously, the federal law, due to our participation in the National School Lunch Program, requires it. Also, we have increasing personnel costs, and again, it's our need to keep that fund balance in food service. In fact, it's projected we're going to be around $70,000 at the end of this year. We're walking a fine line each and every year. All food service programs are with the equipment. Our equipment just here at CHS is 14 years old, so it will start to break down, and we will need to go to the unassigned fund balance as we did this year. So at the bottom are the recommended, the National School Lunch Program for 14-15. The reimbursement rate is $2.66. As you can see, the recommended increase for GMS, LMS, CHS, and for adults, the adults don't count, but LMS, CHS, and GMS, we're still going to be below the reimbursement rate, but as long as we're working towards closing that gap, we're okay. We don't necessarily need to be right at the 266. We need to work towards closing that gap.
Frank, why don't we make a bigger step and get there?
Interesting. The food service director and I had that lively conversation yesterday, because my recommendation typically would have been to meet the guideline, to go to the guidelines, but also the guideline provides us with the opportunity to step to get to that rate, so.
But how long do we have to get there?
Forever.
Yeah,
Forever.
it's pretty open-ended. So again, I think what they're saying is, as long as you're working to close the gap, we're okay with that. If you do nothing, we're not okay.
The previous boards are not in agreement with the federal mandate and the process. I mean, I think when I started, GMS lunches were like 175. And I think it was maybe 185 for the other places. So we've made substantial increases over the last 4 or 5 years.
I asked because I remember the same conversation at the last, I think last year.
Yeah,
we had,
right.
and Frank, you said it again, we're walking that fine line.
Right.
Where there's not much excess, so if something does happen.
Right.
Well, there's $70,000 in it.
Yep.
And I think we'll probably get something from the state, a letter from the state telling us that it's not enough. Isn't that correct? And they have a formula that I think.
I gotta tell you, by comparison to other food service
Yeah,
programs,
we're
we're in
in
good
great
shape.
shape.
We're probably one of the last that will get that letter, but yes,
But
operationally, they look for it.
But this gets directly passed on to the parents of kids in schools. And as it has increased, we have seen or been told, haven't really seen it documented, that we have seen a reduction in the number of lunches being purchased and more lunches coming from home, which creates it's a double-edged sword, because if the revenue's not coming in, we still have all the expenses. Maybe not as much as in food, because maybe they don't buy as much food, but probably the biggest expense or 50-50 expense is probably food and labor. I mean, I don't.
60/40.
60/40, okay. Labor to food or food to labor?
Labor to food.
Labor 60%? Okay. So we have to be careful not to jump it too high, because inevitably then you'll end up reducing labor costs to meet the demands, and you still need, if you need 6 people to run the cafeteria, you need 6 people to run the cafeteria, whether you're feeding 100 students, 200 students, 300 students. It doesn't change, because each woman is in a different position. So that's sort of the process. I mean, I think that the staff is fairly lean and mean as the staffs go, or at least they have been from previous conversations. So that's sort of the historical perspective of why we've been very reluctant. And I think that the 15 cents is probably the highest. I mean, there are times that we've gone a nickel and a dime. I mean, we've been very reluctant as a board to increase these prices at all in a very aggressive manner. So 15 cents, if Dennis was here, he would tell you that is a huge jump.
We went quite a
based
bit
on
last year too,
historical.
didn't we?
I think it was only 10 cents last year, but I think it went from
quarter
2
last
to
year.
2.
I thought it was a quarter.
It was a quarter last
Did
year.
it go a quarter
It was a
last
big
year?
one last year, because last year we lost money, so last year we wanted to make up.
Oh, that was right.
Yeah.
There's another element to it as well with the new enactment of healthy foods. There is a mandate in the regulations now that we have to purchase from local farms. That's a national mandate now. So the Fresh Food Initiative is part of that. So it's driving up, obviously, as we all know.
Fairly inexpensive right now, market basket shut down.
Yeah,
Good
the
run on-
selection is
on
very
that food,
limited.
right? They're just keeping it fresh for the whole
We
year.
went scouting, it only took us 2 minutes. But it's the labor costs are pretty stagnant. We're looking at minimal labor costs as benefits. We've got all under 30-hour employees with the exception of one, which is our food service director. So your labor costs are pretty well fixed. It's the cost of food, and we actually had a pretty good year. And I haven't seen the final numbers on on our production. But I know CHS, they were very pleased at the meal, the numbers of meals that were served here at the high school.
I know it only, did one particular school make more of a profit, so it carried other schools, or did all of them?
I haven't got to that point.
You haven't got that.
Do we have, I think it was Wilson's that was offering CSA shares. Is that something that we do now, or is it something that we might?
I don't know.
talk to them about?
I don't get down to that level of purchasing, but I can find out. I mean, I know they look around and try to find, they do some cooperative purchasing with other districts as well. It's hard because, again, buying fresh product, as we all know, you go grocery shopping a week later, you're looking in going, what happened to the tomatoes and the cucumbers? And that's the same thing here. And the high school has the utilization of the salad bar, so they can turn that product over. But I know they've done a pretty nice job with this year. And it's all new to them as well. The regulations are still kind of coming out in the food service. I know there's some other initiatives coming forward now with certifications for employees, which is going to drive up our labor costs, because now they're going to have training and professional development and all that sort of thing. So.
But the dilemma we're in is we have to decide tonight, because we have to have it posted for school starting in September, so we can't wait till our next meeting. If we wanted to, we could, but then it would change 1 week into the school, there would be a change.
Yeah, I'd recommend that we not do that. If the board so sees fit to provide us with an increase, we would want to do that before the start of
Yeah,
the school.
no, there's no doubt.
Because there's programming
Yeah, there's
involved
no-
and
no
communication.
doubt about that, yeah.
Yep.
And as they send out the menus by email and stuff, they need to have the correct prices on the process.
How often do they look at, while we're on the subject, how often do they look at introducing like new items and stuff? 'Cause I know just from going and eating with my kids and stuff, it's basically the same 5 or 6 days.
Day in and day
over
out.
and over.
Yeah.
I mean, you can only have hot dogs and beans so many times. So I'm just curious how
No
often
brown bread?
they're looking for that.
I don't know. It's something that I know Hilda works with, and the changes that we've made. I know she's looking to get more input from the lead food service techs on that, but it does seem to be pretty consistent, the menu throughout the school year.
I know for one of my, two of my members of my family will be cheering more mac and cheese than chicken fingers. But that would be the requirement coming from some Yorks that I know.
I'd say coming from mine would be less Mexican.
Less
GMS.
My daughter likes the tacos, I think.
Yeah.
I think it is. Meatball stuff. we do.
It's funny because on one hand, you want to see
Well, they do-
variety, but then you look at the numbers, like pizza. I mean, you see the
yeah.
pizza days, it's
Pizza
like,
every Friday.
oh.
Well,
But
didn't
they
do
cost
it-
more.
One of the classes that had a vote to add a new a meal. Was that LMS?
I think so.
I don't know.
This past year, they added a new, I don't know what, I can't
On voting
remember
day,
what
they did,
one.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know what one, but they.
A new
they-
menu item?
New
Yeah,
menu
no, I didn't
item,
hear that.
yeah.
In May, this issue was on the table at the South Central Superintendent's meeting. And South Central basically is Manchester down through the Central Corridor. And about a third of the schools reported that their revenues and, break even or whatever were about the same. A third indicated that they were significantly down, and about a third indicated that revenues were significantly up. And the key factor appeared to be whether or not people were responsive to menu changes, and especially going to more à la carte things, so that students had more choice.
Yeah.
And there was almost a complete correlation between, 2 or 3 people said, oh, yeah, we did so much better than we did 2 years ago. And invariably, it's doing, the sort of stuff that we're doing. I
À
think
la
Because of
carte,
the à la
yeah.
carte.
À la carte has had an impact, a huge impact, positive impact to CHS.
Now,
That
are
was
we
a major
moving that
factor.
down to LMS? Yeah.
Well, now that it's passed the beta test here at the high school, we'll start
Okay.
bringing it down. Yeah.
Well, the kids in elementary and middle school eat too,
Yeah, but they have different taste buds.
They do, but it's more basic. It'd be a more basic à la carte, that's true. I don't know how many salads that we eat in the LMS, but.
Exactly, yeah. And just to
You guys need a
finalize the report, the milk increases is directly correlated to price increases. We just got our prices from our supplier, and milk prices have gone up.
Make a motion.
So did you make a motion?
I'll make a motion, or
I'll
Derek.
second.
I'll make a motion to accept the recommended increases.
Any further conversation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. 400.
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
Derek.
Derek, okay, I didn't hear.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
If you refresh your screens, I added those co-curricular positions to your packet.
Now we're on to old or unfinished business. You want to start with your agenda change?
The technology integration specialist job description, when we move forward with the warrant article for the part-time position at GMS, we did it on a draft version of this document. Given that the person starts in a couple of weeks, Michelle picked up on the fact that I never brought it back to the board for a formal approval of a non-draft version. There was one error, and it had to do with the certifications required. That was corrected and reads appropriately now. And so, other than that, this is the job description that the board discussed and seemed fairly happy with back in about January.
I just noticed this. Do all the teachers report to the principal and the director of curriculum?
In this case, because some of the responsibilities, no, most of them report to the principal. There's a few special education teachers now report to both in some cases. This was particularly in the director of curriculum instruction because this position is key in the state-required digital portfolio. And so Dr. Heon facilitates that.
Okay.
But unless there's a special circumstance like that, it's almost usually the principal one.
Make a motion to approve the job description.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. 400. This is first reading on policy. Yeah, drug and alcohol testing. Bus drivers.
I have one recommendation for policy EEA, and that is a revision to the title, because it's not, mandatory drug and alcohol testing is a subset of it. There's also physical testing and some other requirements. So if I just struck out the first part and left it as
Excuse me.
school bus drivers.
Mandatory testing.
Mandatory requirements. How about that? Does that work better than testing?
Yeah. That's actually one of the ones, one of the other policies that I looked at today, actually had it as mandatory requirements for school bus drivers.
Yeah, that would be,
Yep.
that's probably better than testing.
And shorter.
Now, this would only be, would this be if, so let's say we have a bus or a van or something like that, and a coach or an administrator or something like that is driving that vehicle, do they have to be in compliance with this regulation? Because remember, the board has always asked the question, you know, the state passed a law saying you had to use, I don't know, big buses or something like that for everything, which sort of meant 5-member, 6-member golf teams or whatever were using, you know, 1/8 of a bus to get somewhere, and the costs were very high. So, you know, there's always been discussions about that. I just was wondering how this would fall into, because in the past, I know, I'll just use the golf team in reference. They would rent a van, and the golf coach would drive the van. Whoever that person was would drive that van. And so they would be, in theory, they would be driving a bus.
I don't think
Well,
they can.
wouldn't it be in the job description?
Regulations have changed on that.
Well, no, I understand that, but
They have to have a special license now.
Right.
Okay.
We own the bus or a
Even if we
van.
rent a van, if it's got to be, I believe, anything greater than a 10-passenger, they have to have a special CDL license.
Okay, all right.
And physicals, and they would have to adhere to.
Okay, so that would mean that if we did have a 10-person or whatever bigger, that whoever was going to use that vehicle would have to meet the same requirements. They couldn't just be an educator or a coach or something like that. They would also have to meet the same requirements and demands to be able to drive that vehicle.
Absolutely.
Well, to your point, John, I'm thinking of the fishing club, which is what, 2 members?
Yeah,
So, take like that group, if the coach were to drive them. In a
I don't know
personal
how they
vehicle.
get to their, I don't know how they get to their
Neither do I.
events and stuff,
That's permissible under our policy.
under our rules. That wouldn't be considered a bus because they'd be using personal vehicles.
Yeah.
The definition of school bus is, I actually,
Yellow.
no, I had the pleasure of
It's big.
doing the background research on RSA 200:37 and 49 CFR Part 3, 41 to 49. And it is as straightforward as it appears, at least to
Yeah.
the read of a layperson.
If we owned a van and we had to hire someone to drive it, I believe we'd have to pay for that testing, because I think Londonderry does
Right.
with their vans. That's where I
Yeah.
made that correlation, so.
That's why a lot of schools get rid of the vans, because it comes with over and above cost requirement.
I have a suggestion, the last paragraph, with regard to the school district contracts with a vendor to provide student transportation services. Therefore, the vendor shall be the employer and provide written, should it be written assurance? I mean, what is the assurance?
It's in the contract that we have with them, that they will provide us with written assurances that all of their drivers comply to safety training, drug and alcohol testing. It's spelled out in the contract too,
Okay.
yeah. But it
Might not be
should.
bad to put it in the
I was just gonna
policy.
say, it should align with the policy, so it should say written if the board so chooses to have it. I don't know how else they would provide it to us.
Anything else?
Make a motion to approve it with the changes.
A second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. 4-0-0.
So we'll come back for a second and final reading at the next meeting.
Yep.
Hope we change something.
No, we didn't change that policy.
I'll change it till the next time it comes up for review.
Next is background investigation and criminal records. GBCD.
I don't believe the board made any changes to this. And it has come back for a first reading, so it's up to the board if they want to make any changes.
It is pretty, also
It's
just taken
pretty
right out of the,
straightforward. Yeah, it's
the books
everything
and
we,
the
it's
laws and
everything we
stuff.
do now. so.
Make a motion to approve policy GBCD.
so, I'll second it. And then is there, is this for all employees that are employed by the district? I mean, it doesn't say who we do this for anywhere. It just, it says each person.
Is any person considered for employment, right?
All employees.
As long as they cause trouble after they're hired, they're good.
I was gonna ask that.
Well, second heading, criminal record. Each person considered for employment whose duties require regular contact with pupils must submit to a state and FBI criminal records check, is the policy. I'm not sure if our practice is more stringent than that or not. I do know that HR Director Messenger would like to go back and take a look at our application procedures. There's some things that we'd like to get some more clarity about, and some more questions that we'd like in on the general app, so we can roll that into a conversation for later this fall.
And the other question I have is in paragraph 3. We're asking about criminal charges or any convicted of any crime or anything like that. State of Massachusetts, and I'm only using them because I had to do a lot of hiring down there, and I believe in New Hampshire has a similar law, that after a certain period of time, a person does not have to share that information. And we're saying they have to share that information.
It's like 10 years.
So we just need to clarify that with state law, because I don't believe that we can, I don't know if we can make it more rigorous in state law or not. I don't know what the answer is on that. I mean, there are some things that you're court ordered to do, sexual predator or something like that and stuff, so.
So I have two questions. I have this down as two questions to follow up on. Are our procedures more stringent than the second section? And how does this reconcile with state law? Those are the two.
Yeah, just how does it reconcile with state law?
Okay. Any others?
All those in favor?
You gotta approve
You see the
it.
with
Wait
the
till-
changes?
Well, we can approve the
it now.
first reading.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the first reading.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 4-0-0. New business. First on our list is instructional materials. IJ.
This is one of the policies that we're required to have according to the minimum standards for school approval, and basically, it's just a basic policy, I guess, that basically states that the board is responsible for approving or providing all instructional materials used in the district. I would like to cite on here something about PERC, but I just, I think we need to wordsmith that portion, because I know that PERC recommends the materials before the board sees it.
That's just an internal thing. I don't know if that's a policy
Because the
thing.
board approves it.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
board, this is- yeah.
we could disband PERC
Still low.
and still, and I don't know if that needs to be part of the policy, because it's an administrative process in which a board member sits on, just to make sure that the will of the board is being represented in that. So when it comes to here, it could come to here with a vote of 7-1, and the one could be the school board member who then says, this is the reasons why I had issues with this document or these educational pieces. So I don't know if you need to have, because people could bring stuff to us without it going to PERC if the administrators and powers to be thought that would be best. Let's just say in an emergency situation or something like that, where something had to, so.
I just wanted to run that by the board to see what they felt on that. It also makes reference to kind of a cycle in here, the last paragraph about fundamental content area curriculum. Instructional materials are, reviewed like every 5 years or whatever the board sees fit. You can change that if you like.
Don't we have a similar policy already? I remember we just reviewed it like 2 months ago, and we went back and forth with Dennis like 15 times.
Yeah, mapping the policy to the procedures.
Yeah.
We
How's that
spent
different
2
from this
meetings
one?
on that.
Is 5 years I have no concept of this, but is 5 years, does it sound like a long time to you? Or is less than 5 years feasible? Like a 3-year?
Well, it's written it can be less, it's not exceeding 5 years.
Right, but I'm just saying, it sounds as though allowing it to go up to 5 years sounds like a long
Well,
time, especially where you have like sciences and things like that where it can
Well,
change
it's
pretty rapidly.
it's the curriculum for all 3 schools. And it gets, if it's science coming up, that means it gets looked at and reviewed for a year, and then comes to the school board to approve any changes. So I don't know what is on the horizon for this year, but it's the 5 core classes, plus art will be thrown in there, computers will be tossed. I mean, those things also are occurring. And it's not to say that if, let's say English passed last year, that other things couldn't be added for English through that period. What this talks about is we do a complete review of the curriculum, of the math curriculum, so the curriculum can always change every year in any one of the categories, but every 5th year, it gets a major review in which, department heads and teachers and administrators and PERC take a strong look at it to see if it's doing what it needs to do. Now, it can easily be switched around by the administration if they determine, we've made some major changes in our math curriculum over the last couple of years. And we should expect to begin to see some changes in math scores moving forward. Not a lot, but we should begin to see some changes in our lower grades because of how the focus of math has been. If we didn't see that and we saw it go the other way, then yes, then the administration could say, well, we're skipping language and we're going to go back on math because we're not seeing the results anymore. But that sort of just, what this sort of says to the general public is that every curriculum, every subject is getting a review every 5 years.
Right, and that makes sense to me. I'm just saying, it sounds to me like 5 years, maybe for that
It's a lot of work.
comprehensive review. It sounds like a long time, but at the same time, it sounds like a tremendous amount of work, so I just...
It is a lot of work. We do have some capacity issues. As I've said before, we have to write the same amount of curriculum as Nashua and Manchester, who have multiple curriculum people, and we have a 0.8. And that's 0.8 of a 40-hour week, when a full-time curriculum person works a lot more than a 40-hour week. So it's more of like a 0.6 or 0.7 position. We are behind in our plan, we know it. And quite honestly, Mr. York has brought up the issue of how much capacity we have and how we're going to address it moving forward. And it's something we spoke about in the strategic plan. And so in the upcoming budget conversations, you will see some increases in requests for teacher professional development and money to support curriculum development work that we think is badly needed. In some cases, you have things like computer science and computer programming, where a 5-year cycle is a waste of time. I mean, it almost needs to be updated annually. So those are some of the other conversations that we need to have as well. But we're not where we'd like to be. We lost the full-time position back in the cuts in 11-12 for the 1.5 million. We've not been able to get back to full-time in that, but there are other ways to approach it, as we've discussed in the past. With the contract passing, the high school has actually reduced its ability to do curriculum work because the curriculum facilitators now teach a full 5 load instead of a 4. So we're actually headed in the wrong direction in that regard. You will be seeing shortly a job description for the GMS and LMS team leaders, and we're developing now a plan to really work on those as key positions in curriculum and assessment, and really invest some PD and some hours in those positions because they're crucial for exactly the sort of things that you're talking about. So this year, in some sense, this upcoming budget year is about those conversations, about what are the things that we may have to let slide, and what are the things we really have to focus our resources on. And this is what.
It's all about the money and how you want to spend it. Make your motion for this for the first draft.
You don't need a motion to go to a first reading, just board consensus.
JCA change of school or assignment.
JCA, this version of JCA is in conflict with our existing JECB, which is admission of tuition students, I believe, if I scroll back up a page. Admission of tuition and non-resident students, which stipulates in the very last sentence of the policy, the Litchfield School Board shall approve the admission of all tuition students, or pupils, rather. So this one basically gives the superintendent the right to make some decisions about students moving into and out of district. So the two policies are in conflict. The one that we have existing and have been going by required board approval for all tuition students, other than a few exceptions like foreign exchange students or students who have left the district in May of the year, and I have the ability to allow them to complete the school year here and that sort of thing, just as an FYI.
So what change are you looking for us to make?
I'm not sure. You can make a good argument on either side. We're a small enough district that we don't have very many of these, and you know, I mean, I can look after them administratively if the board feels that given the size of the board and the workload, it's not a burden, and they would like to you know, maintain the ability to.
I mean, we're not taking out of the hands of the individual to come to, let's say they go through the whole process and they don't like whatever decision has been made, they still have the right to still come to the board?
Everything is appealable to the board.
I mean, you know, I don't think we need to get into the day-to-day running of kids in the class and stuff like that. I think that's more of an administrative process, and as long as you know, it's decisions being made are in the best interest of the student and the district, then. And the two may not always be the same. Why do we want to get involved on a school board level on those things? I mean, especially if we're part of the appeal process, we can't be part of the decision process.
Even under this, in cases where someone is seeking a waiver of tuition, I think those cases would still go to the board.
That would be a very good idea.
Any other comments?
So is there a sentence in this one or a sentence in the other one that you need to change? Dr. Cochran, or are we?
I'm comfortable with either one. This is actually, in a large district, the number of students involved can be significant in the year, and it can become burdensome, and I think it needs to be administrative.
We're lucky we have one a year.
I think, I'm sorry?
I said we're lucky we have one a year.
Yeah. So in that sense, if the board wants to keep this as their prerogative, that's fine. There are times that, especially in the increasing complexity around students and issues with students, there are times that students will seek to be placed out of district for a variety of reasons. It's not always best practice to have that sort of student information available to the board. My concern with the existing process.
I'm perfectly happy to leave the administration to run the schools on a day-to-day basis, and this seems to me like very much like that.
You all set? On to LMS, proposed co-curricular job description.
Yes. One of the sidebar agreements in the contract that was ratified and passed by the voters required a redoing of the technology stipend positions in the district into a Tech 1 and Tech 2, and approval of those by both the LEA and the board prior to September 1. That work was completed today, and the resulting job descriptions are in front of you. The positions are just a sample taken from a prior year's contract and then revised. But it's the job description itself that you would be approving. Tier 3 amount of the stipend for both positions are $2,090.90. Will not require a change in the existing budgetary situation, and we should not have to eliminate any other stipended positions that were funded last year. Most of it is boilerplate from all of the stipended positions. In this case, the statement about the 6 students really doesn't apply and should probably be taken out. But there's nothing wrong with leaving it in. We have had a tech position related to looking after the website at the schools. We've had a tech position related to supporting the end user of technology. We are very thin and understaffed in the area of tech support, so these positions are crucial. If you look at the hours expected and the rate of pay, let's just say this isn't a tremendous opportunity, folks. It's for folks. You know, the expected hours for this position runs in the area of 150 or more hours per year at a level 3, at a tier 3. And if you did the math on that, you would find that that would be under $15 an hour gross for their work, and most people go well beyond the mandated hours. The stipended fees is probably something that we should be addressing moving forward, and especially as we prepare for the next round of negotiations. They are, I mean, it's a great deal for us, but it makes you question why people would take it on at the level of compensation. To some extent, it's almost like an honorarium for some of these positions, as opposed to an appropriate level of pay.
So is this something that needs to be, these positions need to be clarified of what tier they should be on?
No, it's fairly straightforward. We've taken the positions, and the amount of work in technology has increased, and so rather than call them by, web support versus, back of house technology versus it's just a Tech 1 and Tech 2, that was stipulated as the titles in the contract. And so there are the job descriptions. Tech 1 oversees and assists teachers in the use of district technology, provides teachers with hardware, software, and SIS. So this is basically troubleshooting, direct support for teachers, not really instructional technology per se, but more on the use of technology. So they provide PD at the school level. So Sandy Doucette,
hours used after the school day or before the school day?
It's expected that it would be after.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes I'm sure people give up their planning time to go try and fix somebody's computer or see what the problem is, or there's also some system work. And as we move to the new SIS, there'll be more of that. But tracking technical issues, resetting passwords, disabling and enabling accounts. To some extent, these are trying to make up for our lack of district capacity in technology back of house. The positions are needed. I would love them to be able to shift them away some of that back of house work to be more of instructional support over time.
My question on these positions, the Tech 1 and Tech 2. The position on Tech 2 seems much more rigorous than the requirements for Tech 1, and yet the compensation is the same.
The Tech 1,
I mean, Tech 1 only
has to do with tech support and software.
If you look at minimum qualifications on one, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 small bullet points. And if you look at the other one, it's quite lengthy and some very detailed experience in what is necessary.
The second, and I'm just making sure I'm looking at the correct version, is the shorter one is the one that has the web support. And so that is fairly repetitive work. They're actually not programming in HTML.
Well, what I'm just saying is that you're paying the position that has the more rigorous and the more technical needs and the technical experience necessary, the same as you're paying the person who's just going to take care of basic website and something that's very repetitive. And I don't know if, and I don't know what you have, but I don't know if that's.
We discussed at some length, and I think consensus was that the volume of work and the hours required for the website support and the number of web pages that have to be worked on. Besides, this was originally just a web site support job description.
Well, the Tech One, I believe, is that.
And it was, and then we've added additional responsibilities, which.
Well, I'm okay with that. I'm just saying that what you have two positions.
Yep.
It's like, one is a head coach and one is an assistant coach. If I could use the athletic director process in here, what is necessary to be able to do the position. And your compensation is the same.
I think the difference is the balance of the volume of hours. There's a lot of technical stuff in the Tech One as well. Assist with locating online resources and support materials is not instructional technology.
I'm not going to argue your point here. I understand here. I'm just telling you from looking at this for the first time,
Yep.
I would say that the position requirements for the Tech 2 are much higher than the requirements for the Tech 1. And the compensation should reflect the necessary skills. Irrelevant of the people, the person who's qualified to be the Tech 1 person is not qualified to be the Tech 2 person. Now, they may be, but on the gist of it, you could get somebody with some basic computer skills in the Tech 1 position. You could not get somebody with basic computer skills in the Tech 2 position.
Did Kyle have any input as far as these two positions?
He was the one at the typewriter, at the keyboard.
I would think our person in charge of tech has an idea as far as the balance of work and.
Well, all I'm saying here is then they both should be Tech 1s, not Tech 2 and Tech 1, if that's the
The one and
story.
two are the.
I believe that, again, I believe that you need to evaluate this through your payroll department, not through your IT department, and not through the management of the co-curricular budgets, but through the people who look at dollar and cents, which is the payroll director, or our HR director, to make sure that what we're compensating these people is truly reflective of what you're asking their experience to be.
I think it is.
These stipend positions aren't by
Sure they
experience or
are.
ability.
You can go, yes, they are. No, they're not. They are. You go look at the athletic co-curricular. You get guys that are paid $1,500 and other positions that are paid $4,000.
That's all hours based though.
No, it's not hours based. It's based on experience and what they have to know.
And to some extent, yes, and to some extent, no. In athletics, there is the coach and the assistant coach, but in the special assistants, in this category of the stipend agreement, there's three actual pay scales within the stipend agreement. One is for athletics, and that's on page 28, and there is a significant difference between varsity coach, JV coach, and freshman
Yeah.
coach, even though the hours expectations are the same.
What's that?
Then when you get into co-curricular, it's completely by hours. And if you look at the special assignment, it is completely by hours. So in this case, the difference in the difficulty of the job description isn't taken into consideration within the structure of the contract, which is why. And we did have broad input. We had 3 LEA members and Principal Rothhaus. myself, and Kyle Hancock, the technology director. And there's pretty good consensus that in terms of the time required, and we did actually spend some time having a conversation about the background required. And of course, former LEA President Late was the one who pointed out that that is not the criteria used in this particular category of employment, that it was strictly hours. You can't get much by her.
I'm not going to argue that because I'm trying to read this without my glasses, but I can just go through here and look at, at the difference. I mean, you have a drama club that's at a tier 3 and somebody that's on the math club that's at a tier 1. I mean, it's, you can go, I will go back to special assignments, since this is more of a special assignment. Tech 1 and Tech 2 to be determined, but you'd have a scale of 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
And I would probably argue correctly that the Tech 2 position is more of a tier 4 position because of the requirement of the skills you're requiring for the position. Now, I understand the hours, but I can tell you that a curriculum facilitator who is a 4 is expected to have a certain amount of experience and may work a certain amount of hours, but a musical director for drama or a music instrumental special assignment is a 3 may put in the same amount of hours. And they have a specialty in thing. I'm just saying, I know you guys have done your work on this, but I'm just saying that when you get into technical aspects of things and you're requiring in that position a certain amount of technical knowledge and know-where of hardware and software and the ability to teach, you're not requiring that in the other position.
Agreed. And there was on several fronts, because this is moving forward from a document that we've inherited. And there was consensus among both administration, district, building, and LEA that it's in imperfect structure, that the best that we can do is try and address the equity issues moving forward. And there was a lot of time spent today on so how is fair in one, if being fair in one regard like this means you're being unfair in another regard.
Well, it's a case-by-case basis, and as you resolve them, you resolve them. But what you've done here is you have a position that you can start with 1 and begin making the correct decisions in the process, but we punted and elected to just move the ball down the field and to continue to let it be an issue. Now, maybe you need to have the conversation and say, we can't fix them all, and as they come about, we'll go back to the board. I mean, we can be the deciding factor on that. I mean, because we're all looking at this at a business process. We're not looking at this, I look at this as what the skill level. I mean, I could defer to Derek or even to Dennis is here. I would imagine they would look at this and say the person in Tech 2 position has to have more experience than the person in Tech 1 position, period, and know much more than the other person.
Yeah, I was just
in that aspect.
Tech 1 is basically an office knowledge worker.
Yeah, can they work a computer?
I don't disagree with you at all. The issue is that we're confined based on the contract, and we're confined in terms of the solutions that we're allowed to offer. It's designated as a special assignment, and a special assignment salary is determined by the minimum numbers of hours, period. And
I'm
so
gonna have to get my glasses on and read and look for that line there, Mr. Cochran.
I think Mr.
Cochran,
Barker
I'll be
can
looking
confirm
that.
for me if he has the contract.
I don't have the contact with me, unfortunately.
I'll give you my copy to read it, because I can't see it, read it, it's too small.
Special assignment stipend positions, director curriculum, school operations, the enhancement of the school community. Tier 1, expectation a minimum of 50 hours. Tier 2, a minimum of 100. Tier 3, a minimum of 150, Tier 4, a minimum of 250, and Tier 5, a minimum of 300.
I think that should be the first thing we need to fix in our next
So I was
contract.
gonna say, that could be like bullet point 2 for negotiations for the next time around.
There you go.
Have a list go?
I do.
And the other thing
I mean, I'll be here when it comes around, so.
If we don't get this approved tonight, those positions go away because we will have violated the contract that allows us to make it. So we're kind of forcing
I'll
the
make
issue
a-
tonight.
I'll make a motion to accept the positions that are presented.
A second. Any other conversation? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. 4-0-0.
I thank you for your support, just knowing that there are some inequities here and that is concerning.
Any questions on the manifest?
Where did we carpet at GMS, at the office?
I'm sorry?
The big carpeting bill for GMS, was that the
The,
office or what was that?
2 classrooms,
Okay.
down, I believe, first, second grade area. That included,
Which the lab?
no,
Carpet.
carpeting and.
Grade 1.
We
Grade 1.
needed to remove some asbestos material and make that as well.
And the AC, was that for the new
New
computer room?
computer lab, yep.
That's gonna be the coolest class in
They come out
school.
nice. If you haven't seen it. Yeah.
Everybody's gonna be wanting, hey, can I go to the computer lab?
Well done. Well, did a nice job. Yep, came out nice.
How's it set up? Is it set up like presenter, like all the students face the teacher and there's a?
I haven't seen it set up yet, the actual, they were just, the walls are in, the carpeting, the tiles in, the room's in, shelving's in. How they were gonna set up with the smart board, I haven't seen that piece yet. But I was, when I saw where it was going, I was kind of a little skeptical if it was gonna look okay. It really came out nice, very pleased.
I went to actually I told Brian about this already, I went to a game coding camp with my daughter at Microsoft this summer. And it was very cool, so I'm gonna see if I can work with the PTO to run the same thing at GMS after school sometime. I know a guy in the PTO, so maybe he'll help me out.
He is, he's president. Lucky guy.
Any other questions on the manifest? That'll bring us to community forum. And no one in the forum, so we'll enter non-public.
Motion made.
Yes, and read the thing and then.
Oh.
The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employees, or the investigation of any charges against him, unless the employee affected, 1, has the right to a meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case request shall be granted. B, the hiring of any person as a public employee. C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Motion made?
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. We're now in non-public.
Hey. Someone needs to tell the guys in there that we're off. They need to get us off.
I run non-public now.